I'm Mike Sloan. We moved here in about 1 year ago, and it's just been a wonderful experience. We never expected to find a place in Spello, even though we've been attracted to here for so long. And then things just seemed to start happening, and we found a property that was available. We then met Antonio, and he was sort of our neighbor, but we didn't know him that well. And we got involved when another property became available for us to look into possibly moving into.
Yeah, so the first time we came here was probably 25 years ago to Spello. And we came to Spello because we wanted to visit Assisi, and we decided to stay in a hotel in Spello. And so that was the first time we ever came. And we came back probably 3 or 4 times. And we were looking on the internet once and found a property that we liked, which is what led us to come look. We actually didn't think we could afford this part of Italy because we looked at house prices in Tuscany and they were significantly more. So we were surprised with how reasonable the prices were in this in Umbria, and it's particularly in Spello.
That's a great question. The first home that we had, the first apartment here, just was small, too small. We were attracted to it at first. It was here, it was available, and we were able to make an offer and get that apartment. But the longer we lived there, the more we thought we'd like a little bit more room. And the next thing that we knew, another property opened up that became available that Antonio made us aware of.
The first apartment that we bought was quite small, and we wanted to be able to have friends and family come visit us. And we did have some in the first apartment, but it just there wasn't enough room. And when Antonio showed us the apartment that we just bought, it had a lot more room. It also had a roof terrace that was really attractive to us because we could see all around Spello. So really the size and the location, because it's right off Via Giulia, which is the main street, so it's extremely convenient. So we did have experience with one other real estate agency, and they were very nice. Antonio brought more of a personal touch, and he asked us a lot of questions about what our longer term plans were. And he was really patient with showing us properties. He actually showed me probably 4 different properties in Spello. And I saw the house we bought for the first time in early 2024, and Mike didn't see it until August of 2024. But it really was, it was a very good experience with Antonio. Having him as a neighbor and knowing him a little bit more than just someone in a real estate office also made it much more comfortable for us to trust what he was telling us.
I was just going to say trust was a big issue, and Antonio was very trustworthy. We actually had some experiences with in this whole changeover from getting one apartment and then getting another that weren't, and it had nothing to do with Antonio. It had to do with some of the prospects that were looking at the businesses at the apartment, and Antonio was very professional and maintained his professional attitude the whole time, and it was just very comforting. We just felt that it was going the best that it could possibly go.
I did not have issues or problems with not being a native Italian speaker and being someone from outside of Italy. For a couple of reasons. This is the second property we've purchased, so going through it the first time was more confusing. Going through it a second time, it made a lot more sense what the process was. And throughout the process, Antonio was really clear in explaining each step. Not being fluent in Italian, not speaking Italian well, we did need to translate a lot of things, but the documents prior to closing, we were able to get from Antonio to translate and understand, and then we always asked a lot of questions. At the closing, we were aware that we needed to have either a translator or a power of attorney. So we were aware of the process. It's very different than purchasing real estate, and in our case, back in the United States. But Antonio explained it to a point where it all made sense to us and it wasn't confusing.
Oh, it was wonderful. Like I mentioned previously, there were a few what I call hiccups with other people, but Antonio was able to make everything go as smooth, and he gave us his ideas and thoughts on exactly how we should proceed when there were times that seemed a little bit difficult. And he never pushed us. He never in any way tried to tell us what to think. That the decision was ours, and yet we felt like we were given enough information by him that we really felt like we made the best informed decision that we could.
Yeah, I think that office has a really good mix of people. Everybody is always upbeat, and for us, we know enough Italian where oftentimes Antonio would explain something to us and we could understand. But when we didn't understand, Simona was here, and Simona was always able to fill in the things that we didn't know. And I really think the combination of people in this office made it extremely comfortable for us. I never concerned myself with anything going on in the office or with Antonio. I always felt comfortable that everything was going to be okay with working with the office. It was, in my opinion, it was a very easy process. We were selling and buying a house at the same time. The purchase of the house was extremely easy. The sale of the house was a little more difficult because our buyer had some issues, which delayed the closing. But Antonio managed both sides. He managed both the sale of our house and the purchase of the new house, and he did a great job. He's an extremely calm person and doesn't allow the negative things to irritate or upset him. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, we think we sold our house at a great price.
Yep.
And we think we bought the new house at a great price.
Yes.
A lot, and I'll say this, and I don't know how this fits into things, but a lot of our comparison is to prices of homes in the United States. And the prices of homes in the Spello area are incredibly reasonable compared to housing nearly anywhere in the United States. So it always feels extremely comfortable from a price perspective, that we feel like it's very, very good value.
Well, for me, yeah, very important. I would not have been able to do this. I know myself on my own, but Tom has some experience in this, and Tom would always either reassure me or could tell that everything was going very, very smoothly. So it was very important.
I asked a lot of questions of Antonio, and he worked as an interface sometimes with the notaio and our attorney to make sure we were purchasing this house as our primary residence. Part of it was very confusing, not part of it working with Antonio, but our past experience in buying a house that did not end up being listed as our primary residence. So the latter part of the purchase, prior to the actual deed signing, Antonio and the notaio cleared up a tremendous amount of confusion from the past. And we were able to clarify that this was our primary residence, and it would be the residence that we would use as part of our permesso di soggiorno and our residency here in Italy. So that was extremely helpful for us to have him help us through that process. That book is really, really good. We had purchased a prior house in Spello. We did not receive that type of information. And as a documentation of all of the information about our house in a single place where I can keep it when I need to go back and look at it, was extremely helpful. It also has a bunch of other information within it that I never expected to see. You know, history about the house, some of the information about the prior owners, information about the town.
It was to me, it was a complete surprise because it was so comprehensive in it, and it just added that much more to the fact at the closing that how important it was for us and how we felt about the closing and how good we felt about the whole situation.
I think the ease of working with Antonio and the team, they made it extremely easy for us to go through the process. Antonio always had the documentation and information available before we even knew to ask for it. And the communication was always very easy and very quick. Antonio would respond almost instantaneously to any message I sent him, whether I sent him something via WhatsApp or via email. And oftentimes he'd respond in Italian as well as he would translate it into English. So it was working with Antonio and Simona and the entire office was extremely easy. One would be easy. I think. Go ahead.
Professional.
Yeah, professional.
Professional. Always maintained a professional edge that we really appreciate.
Yep. Comprehensive. I think the information was always there. I'm not sure we ever had to ask for any additional information. Friendly. Everybody in the office always very open and friendly. Absolutely. I would recommend the office and Antonio to anybody and everybody that has come here. As a matter of fact, we, on our way here, a friend of ours asked us to pass along a message to Antonio. She's looking for a property and she wants Antonio to keep an eye out for things. This would be the first place I would recommend somebody.
And I can only say yes, that it didn't matter whether they spoke English or Italian or what nationality they were. I can't think of a better experience that we've had when this is such buying a house is such an emotional experience, and it felt very, very good.